Hey, what's up, everybody? So I don't know where my glasses are, so you're gonna have to forgive me if I can't see much and squint real close. I was laying by the pool, fell asleep for about an hour and a half, almost missed the stream, but I'm glad I'm here. Hope you guys had a great Sunday. Steven, Minwoo Lee wins the Houston Open today by one stroke. Good, I'm glad. I think that's his first one, right? Um, all right, we got a big show today. We got 10 people. What's up, no one? How you doing? No one. How you doing, brother? Okay, we got 10 people today, so that's quite a big show. I'm going to try and cram them all in. And if I don't get through to most of you, I'm going to do my best. We'll go over if we need to. Forget it. We're going to get all of them in. And I know I got some submissions today. I got back to you by email saying I probably can't get to you. So just have some patience. If you did submit one this morning through this afternoon, you're going to be on next week's show. If you are interested in submitting your golf swings to me for evaluation, cause and effect, send it to me at info@liongolfacademy.com. Face on down the line. So down the line is this one that you see playing, and face on is this one that you see playing. So both of these really help me diagnose your cause and effect. Now, keep in mind, this is not to replace golf lessons. Let me make that really clear. This is just to give you an idea of your cause and effect. I might help you suggest a couple things, but don't take these as replacements for lessons. You really have to go work with a golf coach near you because it's really hard. Let's say I tell you to work on something, you go and think you're working on it, you're probably not, and you make things a little bit worse. It could be better. It's just a real crapshoot. So keep that in mind, everybody. But let's get started. We got Kurt on the screen now. Kurt is 56 years old, 6 handicap, been around the block with the hospital. Unfortunately, 3 surgeries on the left shoulder, 3 surgeries on the right hand, 3 knee surgeries, C5, 6, 7 spinal fusion, broke L4. So we have a lot to work with. Used to race motorcycles. So misses are huge, but either blocked right mostly or occasionally a snap hook. What's up, Mark? I don't know if this is you, but how are you doing? So we'll take a look at his cause and effect and see. So rope hooks and blocks. So we have to look at the path. We have to look at what's causing that impact. So immediately from this face on, we know we have a lot of surgeries to deal with, a lot of injuries. So we don't expect him to be fitting a lot of these boxes, but we do see that club pull deep inside, and this could cause some path issues. He does a pretty good job of dropping it in the slot, though, and we do have some spine loss. What's up, Jordan? Glad you could stop by. And we do see that hand manipulation. So this could definitely just be a path that's right of your target, and then it comes down to your hands either releasing correctly, not releasing correctly, or closing down, and then there goes your snap hook. So whenever you start to deal with such significant ball flights, you have to look at your path first. And before you start looking at that, you got to look at your alignment first. So check your alignment, make sure you're lining correct to your target. Remember, it's parallel lines, so you want your club face at your target, not your feet. Your feet are going to be pointing your club face right, and then you start to manipulate. So make sure you're lined up correctly. Then also look at your body, make sure your body's lined up correctly, because that can really affect your hand path right away. But everything's looking good lining up. Then you start looking at your club face, where it is coming from at the impact position. If it's too steep, you're going to have issues with the path left. If it's too far inside to out, you're going to have issues with the path right. And then it comes down to your hands timing at impact. But let's take a look at the face on, because that down the line is a little tough to tell. Face on, we do see that ball position back. And it's hard to say if this is because of all those surgeries that he's had to manipulate some of this. But if you take a look at that shoulder tilt, the hands are doing a pretty decent job of staying relatively perpendicular to that shoulder tilt. But we take a look at this forward press. We have a pretty big forward press and a ball position that's too far back. So if you have a forward press here and your ball position, and let's zoom this in here so I can get you guys a little closer. And you also have a ball position. We'll draw this in, Barney Purple. I think Barney Purple is only going to be the one that's called out in live show, since he's the original one. So look how far back that ball position is relative to your centeredness. Now, in order to carry that forward press angle and keep relative to your ball position, you've got to match your ball position closer to that shaft angle. So the only real way to do this is to move significantly off the golf ball. So you realign your centeredness to that golf ball, and then you better stay back there. So it's going to be a very unusual impact position. If your weight's stuck on the right side, you won't be able to turn. You're going to have some significant loss of power. So let's take a look at what we do initially. So we see that weight shift does shift back. So we see it moving back. Now does he shift forward? So he starts to shift forward, starts to stall out with that shift. So we can see where we're stalling out is, let's draw this in green. There's the centeredness. And so he does get his center slightly ahead of the golf ball, but that ball position is still pretty far back on his right shoulder. So it doesn't really change much. And when that occurs, you are now also tilting and driving. And when you drive towards the target with your hips, your upper body falls back naturally to increase that tilt. Should happen normally to engage a natural forward press. But if you're not engaging a natural forward press, you're going to suffer. And as a result, we see the shoulders tilting correctly. Let's see here in yellow, and they meet their centeredness right there. So his hand speed's a little bit slower because he has to release too soon. Now, when you pair that with a inside to out motion that we see from down the line, now you've got some issues. Your timing can be really good and you can hit it pretty solid. You're not going to hit them all solid, but that's normal. But you can have significant motion every now and then, and that's the misses I'm kind of warning everybody about. Handicap is how well you miss the ball. It's not how well you hit the ball. So if you have these every now and then, these shots that just blurt out in Havenkamp's pool or Jabroni's bridge game, left side, right side, that's going to be very hard to find that medium. So you want to taper this down. Without looking at your swing, I think this is a big setup change, but it's going to feel very awkward. This ball position shouldn't be that far on your right side. At the very least, put it in the middle. And then you can just have that natural tilt that you have and align your hands centered to that tilt. So now you've got a pretty normal forward press. You want a slight forward press with your irons. You don't want a dramatic one. So really give that a try. Now, that's not going to solve things. That might get you, correctly set up, and your body might cure it right away, or it might take some other changes in your swing. And that's why I just say these things can be hard if you rely solely on what I try to help you out with as a lesson. Yeah, it can point you in the right direction, but you really got to go check with somebody near you. So I hope that makes sense to you. I'm sorry about all your surgeries, but I'm still glad that you're playing the game at least. So best of luck to you, Kurt. And let's see who is next. We've got Jordan on the chopping block. Let's take a look. Jordan, are you? Yeah, you're here. You just said hello. All right. I don't know why this is choppy. All right, Jordan, we're going to have to do this a little old school. So I see that club, and I know that you mentioned this in your notes. All right, let's go over your notes. I can't hit play for you guys. It's going to be really choppy. So real quick, let's take a look at his notes. He's at 11 handicap, mostly shoots mid 80s, high 80s. Sometimes I will get in the low 80s and high 70s. I tend to hit behind the ball about an inch or two as I release a club early in my downswing. I do have issues with getting the club on plane in the backswing. And I've had lessons, and I was told that I do not get in a good position at the top of the swing. So it's not overly concerning. All right, so he says that he has a driver head cover on the right side as a way to feel his arms getting in front of his body, I guess, to stop him from going back. So that's a good idea. As long as I don't see it tucked under the side, that could be a killer. All right, so let's back this up. Do we have that same glitchy on the front? Let's take a look at the front. Yep, same glitchy. All right. Let's look at the down the line first and see some plain lines and take a look and see what we can come up with. In Barney Purple, and we're going to zoom in for you guys so you don't have to. I'm blind right now as is. That's a little too close. All right. Hopefully that's good for you guys. And we're going to do oh man. Look at this. I've almost fall asleep at the pool and the whole program starts to get broken. Okay, back brace line. Let's take a look at the action. Let's check the centeredness first and see if we're staying relatively centered. We're going to split the difference. Okay, pretty good centeredness going on there. Let's take a look at that first move. I know you're trying to keep it relatively on plane. It's slightly inside. It's okay, though. I've seen worse. Okay, it's a little deeper because it goes inside, so it's okay. Club face is relatively square. Let me see. Love your swing analysis, not dogmatic and tied to one swing theory, which I see from a lot of us. Yes, I appreciate that. I'm trying, very hard to let you guys know that every swing is so unique. And I'm going to come up with a video this week describing that there's no such thing as swing theories. No stack and tilts, no two planes, no one planes, and I'll explain it in the video. Would you please define the release? I've never heard a clear explanation. Um, Release happens in many ways. It's really the transition of power. So the goal is to have your angles that you set at the top, carry those angles as long as you possibly can based on your limitations. As soon as your hand goes, to me, that's considering releasing the power that your body has created. The hands and arms preserve that power by maintaining their angles. As soon as they go, they're releasing that power. So that's my definition of release. When I'm looking at releasing, I'm looking at why is that person releasing at a certain time? When does that release start to affect their the ball in the air, and how does it affect it? If it's significant misses right and left, we have to look at why it's happening and then work our way back. If release, put it this way, I've had students that have zero mobility with their body and they have to just rely solely on the hands and arms. So their release is going to be completely different than somebody that doesn't release as much because they're body driven. So it's a very open interpretation of what release is. To me, release is releasing the power your body's creating. So hopefully that makes sense to you. Okay, so as we strike down in the golf ball, we see a loss of posture. We start to stand up, and as a result, we have a new spine angle, which will then also would like to lower your hand position, because when you stand up, you start to flatten out. But you do compensate fairly well with that. Right there, you can see it's right here. It's a little steep, and who knows? You might do that because you get a little steep, and it might help you flatten out, or you might flatten out because you were steep. So we don't know which one came first. So we got to keep that in mind. But so far, it's not too shabby. We see that release point. We see that's good. The release angle is a little bit higher than that secondary plane line, which means there's a little bit more rotation. But there is some loss of wrist angle a little too soon. So that's a little concerning. So it's hard to tell from this face on. We don't see a lot of moving around, so your balance looks fairly adequate. For you to go to the next level, what level do you want to go to? 11 handicap. I assume you want to go into the singles. Okay, so let's take a look at your impact and see what happens to your wrists as you go down. Hey, a long-time listener, first-time caller. High handicap, going into my third year of golf, shooting in 90s and 100s. Miss on iron is almost always right or thin. Do you have any advice on finding instruction? Ooh. Can you let me know where you are? I think that's the best way. Are you looking for in-person instruction, or are you looking for like this type of stuff where you send videos into people around the country that can help you via the interweb? What is the preferred way to share video? You can send it to info@liongolfacademy.com. Send me face on down the line. Let me know your issues, and I'll put you in the pipeline. Right now, we've got 2 on the waiting list for next week. So if you get it to me soon, you'll be next week. But we stop at right about 10 just to make sure I'm not here for 7 hours in a row. Can shoot 65, became a YouTube member. Can't. Hey, appreciate that. Thank you for clearing up the ambitious term. Yes, it is. Jordan, single digits. Okay, I figured that. Yes, in person. Okay, yeah, it's Big Lebowski. Send me, or just let me know in your comments where you're from. The best way to start this, if you want to go in person, go to pga.org, and you can look up, there's a directory, and you can look up people in your area, and you can type in your zip code. It'll give you like a 5-mile radius of who to go take lessons from. You can start to do their research. But if you need my help, let me know, specifically if it's down over in the desert area. But let me know. I can help you out. Okay, back to here. Let's take a look at this impact. So we do start to lose our angles right about there. And you say you hit him a little bit heavy at times, and I believe you also said thin. Is that correct? I assume. Okay, so if you take a look at this, and this is what I want everybody to realize, is ball position can also fool you too, because here we have a pretty good ball position. We have a slight forward press. So there's a pretty decent ball position. We have that slight forward press going. His shoulders are fairly connected to that centeredness of his hand, so it's okay. As we get down into impact, though, what you see what happens. So we shift over to the right side ever so slightly, And now we have to start shifting back over to the left side. So we get our shift going, the lower body's going, we start to tilt under. Now, the one issue with having a little bit too much tilt at impact is you're changing your angle that your club is coming into the ground. So let me see if I can do this so it makes more sense. So let's do this in Barney. Let's put a bigger line right here. Okay, so here's this angle here, and his hand path is just going to match that, right? So if this is a vertical line that he's hitting into, it's going to get closer to the ground sooner. So especially with that ball position. So you would like to have not, you have two options here. You would either like to flatten out your shoulder tilt and get slightly ahead of the golf ball, or get significantly ahead of the golf ball here so you can still hit on a descending blow. Now, the problem if you get significantly ahead with increased shoulder tilt, you're going to hit so deep into the ground. Even if you time that and you strike the ball first, your divots are going to be very thick and you can start to do some damage to your wrists. So I would prefer, in my opinion, to see the shoulders not as tilted here. Now, that'll come down to your sequencing, and that'll come down to your weight distribution. So if you're really relying on this transfer left to right, so if you transfer off the golf ball, your whole body moves off the golf ball, and you fire the hips, you're going to get more tilt because you have to fire the hips a little bit more to make up that spacing. And that's going to get you a more shoulder tilt. Now, you better be ahead of the golf ball with that excess shoulder tilt, but then you have to expect some pretty deep divots. So if you don't want to affect your wrists, I'd look into just level out your shoulder tilt at impact. The position of your body is decent. You know, you can see the center of the golf ball and the center of your chest. They're pretty close. Do you ever get ahead of them? They're a little bit behind, but I think it's just because of your transfer. You're tilting a little too much instead of just maintaining that tilt. And you have to feel like the whole body's going with it. So at slightly before impact, you want to feel like it's level tilt and not so much tilt back here. That'll help you carry that angle a little bit better, and you'll actually, hit the ball first and just capture the ground a little bit. So I think that's the best way to explain this for you. Your setup looks okay. I think it's your weight distribution on the way back and through. Maybe stay a little bit more centered. Just think about irons. You want to make sure you strike down on it. And if you're coming into the golf ball with accentuated tilt like a driver, your hand path is going to match that tilt. So your hand path is going to exit higher. And now you better get your hands to go, because as your hands are going higher, they better throw sooner or they're going to top the ball. So this is where you're going to have the contact issues. So I see people like this with topping, hitting him heavy, or flushing him perfect. And there's no middle ground. And if your timing is good, you flush them all perfect. But if you're a little bit off, that's where the thin comes and the heavy comes. And then you get frustrated, you start working on something else, and then you just add more layers on things that you shouldn't be adding. So I hope that makes sense to you, but work on it. Give me a follow-up in like 3 weeks or a month. I know you seem like you like to work on your golf swing. So hope that helps you, brother. Next up, let's take a look. The man in the red hat, Michael, 60 years old, started playing at 21. I'm a caster, and it drives me crazy. That should be a song. I'm a caster. I lose so much swing speed with the cast. My only physical limitations include bulging and herniated discs and age. Okay, let's take a look. Let me see, did I miss anything here? A little thin when I lift up. Yep. Mostly fat. Hopefully that makes sense because you're throwing and you're staying back a little bit. Good, it makes sense. So my shoulder starting plane could be a good way to also be at during the downs. My starting shoulder plane. If you're referring to your tilt, trying to, I think this all, you can't really focus on this because this is a result of something else. So I think it comes from you getting this little bit of shifting, and then you fire with the hips, and then you get kind of stuck while you're shifting, and you accentuate the tilt. So I think maybe just stay a little bit more centered as you turn, and then from the top, just feel like you're carrying, at the top of the swing, you can see I have this angle here. Just feel like I'm carrying this angle just a little bit longer, and then you can go. So it'll level out your shoulder tilt. So just the sequencing's a little bit off. That should help. Okay, back to Michael. All right, let's take a look. Ooh, he's rubbing his shoulder. That's not good news. Okay. I don't know if Michael's on. You're welcome, Jordan. I don't know if Michael's on here. All right. So he's a caster, and we see the same issue here. I think, a good way for you guys to look at, we're always so stuck on this view. I mean, you see everybody in the range, and I know it's not an easy view to get the face on just because you're right next to people. If you can go get an end, hey Michael, good. I'm glad you're on. If you can get an end stall and start to look at your face on, because I think this one can really solve a lot of issues with the release points. Because if you take a look at this again, we're gonna do Barney Purple. Let's zoom in. All right. So you want to take a look at like everything's, you have this big circle that you're working with, right? And that's going to be the center of your circle as you are setting up right now. Now you can see your hands are disconnected from that center. You want things to match up for the average guy. Um, the man in the red cap is steep. Yeah, we're going to try and solve that. So let's just say this is your impact. Your hand path is going to want to move accordingly, unless you have like rubber arms, they're not going to change. So you have to think about that. Now, if you take a look at this forward press, you've got this accentuated forward press. And again, that ball position is off your right side. So you've got so many lines that are just, you have to make up so many angles to try and get them to match up in a very short amount of time, get some weight distribution, rotation, whatever limited your body can do. And we're all limited. So you've got to just look at, why things are occurring and why the chicken wing is happening. And the chicken wing is happening because it needs to happen. You can't cure the chicken wing, because if you do, you'll miss the ball. So we start to look at right here, we start to lose that angle right away, and you can see it, right? But if you take a look and you ask yourself, okay, well, why am I doing this? Well, your body's doing this to help you, because if it doesn't, you won't hit the golf ball. So right now we have level shoulders. The hands aren't going to be caught up at this point, but if they are caught up, look how far behind the game they are. And they're behind the game because remember, when you release your wrists, they slow down. If you keep this like this, the moment you start releasing the wrist, they slow down. They can't keep up with that turn. So now they're going to be back anyway. And plus, you've got a ball position that's still back. So the ball position's on this circle. Let me see if this makes more sense. So I'm going to draw this circle. So the ball position's on that circle, but your spine, let's go right down to impact. Your spine is on this circle. So we're going to draw this like this. There's your spine right here. And there is your ball. So see how they're not matching up, right? They're not bottoming out at the same point. So of course you have to chicken wing because your spine's too tilted, because you started way too far to the left with your ball position. So it's not necessarily a lack of turn. I think you turned wonderfully. I think your setup's pretty good from down the line, but this face on, hopefully just by looking at this, it's like, okay, well, this kind of makes more sense. I've got to line up my circles at impact. So how can I give myself the best opportunity to do so? And it's in the setup. You can clearly see in the setup, we're not lined up. So it's going to make this easier for you. We're lined up. So in order to make this swing work, you're either going to hit very heavy shots that are perfect, but then it's going to, the impact is going to destroy your hands because that club is going to be going so far down because the angles are too tilted this way with the ball position too far back. So I think, don't even bother looking at this side. You need to look at this side. This is your focal point. Get that ball position more relative to your tilting based on your shoulders. A slight forward press is good, but nothing too exaggerated. The only people that can really get away with exaggerated shoulder tilts are the ones you see on TV because they just compensate much better than you or I. That's all golf swing. Golf swings are just compensations. That's all it is. And you have to limit your compensations if you want to hit the ball a little bit more successfully or a little bit further. So you can play perfect golf with an out to in swing. Hey, as long as you do it all the time, who cares? Yeah, you can get 10 more yards, but man, that's where they get you. They promise you 10 more yards if you follow their system or you buy their tool, but don't fall for that. You're stuck with your swing. You can just maintain your swing, develop your range of motion to help you. That's the best advice I can give this individual. So hopefully, Martin, if you're on, hopefully that makes sense. If not, if you're going to watch it later, let me know. All right, next up. Sorry, I got all over the place. Okay, next up, who do we have? Let's see, who is this? I'm sorry, I called you Martin. That's why I got confused. Michael. Sorry, Michael. Now we have Martin. Okay. I told you my glasses, I left them in the pool. You're welcome, Michael. No problem. Happy Sunday. How do we share videos? Happy Sunday to you, Kitty. You can share videos if you just email them to info@liongolfacademy.com. I'm full today, but I've got 2 in the waiting list for next Sunday. I usually do about 10 of these now, or else I'll be here all night. And I got a family. I don't want to divorce yet. So just send it to me, face on down the line, make sure it's clear, and we're good to go. And Martlick is here. Okay, Martin, here we go. So Martin, 62, not the most flexible, been playing since I was 20. I'm retired, play approximately 3 times a week during the season, which is not that long here in Montreal. Looking for more consistency. Distance is okay to my playing partners of similar age, and being able to hit out to in on a consistent basis. The longer the club, the more I struggle to hit out to in. The longer the club, the more I struggle to hit out to in. I'm assuming you mean into out, because the longer clubs, you typically don't have a problem with out to in. So let me know if that's a mistake. My 2 main issues are hitting it fat, big pull, generally with lots of distance, club face closed. I'm looking for the right trigger to begin the downswing. I have a feeling I'm not using my right shoulder arm properly. Okay, let's take a look. Okay, yeah, see that range of motion issue. That's okay, though. We all have range of motion issues. Club does go inside. Slightly disconnected. Loss of posture, standing up at impact. Okay. Yes, I mean to out. Yeah. Okay, no problem. All right, let's see face on. Oh, man. It's like the theme of the day here. I don't do this on purpose. It's just the theme of the day. All right. So hopefully you're around for the past 2 students. I should just hit replay. Okay, so let's take a look here. There's your shoulder tilt. So we have a little bit of a tilting issue and a little bit of the hand connection issue. And again, we have this forward press issue. So we're going to draw the red line. So look at that forward press. So you have this angle to close, right? So there's 2 ways to close this angle. There's number 1 is we get a severe tilt and rotation to carry that angle down. So we're still hitting on a descending blow, and you're able to hold your wrist angle so you don't chunk it. You can catch it perfectly like most of these tour guys that have a severe angle. But because we have rotation issues, because we're 60, we don't have that ability anymore. Most people are only left with making up this gap. So they usually wind up their centeredness where that blue line is. They try and close the gap as best as they can. Now, the problem is when you have that much forward press and your ball position is favoring your right side, if you try to make up that gapping, which you will probably try to do as just some of an athlete to try and get that closer of the gap, what's going to happen? You're going to be so far ahead of the golf ball that you have to do some manipulation down at impact. So we start to possibly lose our angles. So let's take a look as we get from the top of the swing. Okay, we stay pretty centered. Do we get that? There goes that. See that? You close the gap. So look at your center of your chest. It's right where that gap needs to be. Now, the problem is you can't retain that angle. So what happens to your hands? Your hands have to make up because now you shifted that ball. Look how far that ball is now. It's almost off the outside of your right shoulder. So there's just no way for you to retain any angle by shifting, making up correct. You made up correctly with the upper body, but you had to go because you've essentially moved that golf ball further back in your backswing, on your right foot, 2 or 3 golf balls. So it's even further back than when it started. So you have to let go of that angle. And all of a sudden, when you let go of the angle, what typically happens is we don't just let go and hold the angle straight. We let go and roll as well because it has to return with the rotation. So now you've got just a lot of this and this. Look how fast my club opens and closes. So there's some big misses I can imagine, some severe power losses. So again, this is just a simple way to start to put you in a position to, take advantage of what turn you have and take advantage of what timing is to really get this setup more correct. Now, again, if you start to change the setup, it's going to change your swing, and it's probably going to change it for the worse because you're so reliant on things around it. You're reliant on the hands getting involved. So now we're asking you all of a sudden to not be reliant, but the hands and arms are so fast and they've been relied on for so long, I would imagine, that they're just going to do it out of habit. So just by changing your setup, you're probably going to hit it worse. And you're going to, man, that Tony doesn't know what he's talking about. But I'm just warning you. That's just unfortunately the part of it. When you kind of let things go their own way and you develop habits and you develop neurological system that's just deeply embedded into you, a simple setup change is not going to solve things. It might make things easier, and it might make things easier to understand. And at least you'll be able to look at things and see, okay, now I'm looking, I understand what's going on with my swing, with my setup, and how it affects my impact. Now let me just work on things to hold that angle a little longer, because now when I move left, I can hold the angle. I don't need to release it. And then maybe you can start to work on, wrist hinge drills. But I wouldn't work on wrist hinge drills, because you actually need to lose your wrist hinge to hit that golf ball the way you're set up now. So I hope that helps you. I know it's probably not the answer you want to hear, but it can really open up a nice starting point for you. And then you want to just, start to pick apart things from that point. And if you need help diagnosing it further on, I want you to get used to the setup, and then send me a video in a couple of weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, just so I can look at the setup and we can look at the changes that might be happening naturally, or just send you on a different journey of what to work on next. But again, please don't rely on these to be lessons. I love doing these for free, but I have a feeling there's going to be more and more of these submitted, and I probably can't keep up. So you get the idea. Thanks, Tony. Emailed you. I am located in the city of Chicago. Last year regressed after working with some new instructors. Okay, no problem. I assume you emailed me, not the videos, right? Unless you want me to look at your video, email me your videos for next Sunday as well, if you can. And then I'll help you out, find somebody in Chicago. I love golf courses in Chicago. Okay, hopefully that helps you. Martin? All right, next we have, looks like Peter. Peter was from last week, and he sent me drivers because he says, hey, I haven't seen many driver swings on your live videos, so it'd be cool to see some driver swings. And he doesn't really have anything to work on. He just wants to see cause and effect. I know that swing 1, swing 2, swing 3. Swing 1 was a push. Swing 2 tries to achieve every swing, and swing 3 is a draw, push draw. So it just wants me to take a look and see, and maybe give a little education. But if you remember from last week, he had a very unique swing, and he made it work, man. He slots this thing perfectly. So I'll take some water. You can watch this. So you see, that's just a very unique motion. And there's not much you can teach with somebody like this that just has their own motion and they've grooved it, because we see that we have this severe up, a long backswing with the hands and arms. And then all of a sudden, though, he's able to slot that club perfectly, and he maintains his spine angle. And then from here, he starts to rotate into the target. So this is just a very, very unique golf swing. He hits the numbers pretty close to what you're looking for. And I'm looking for the tilting numbers and the rotation and all that stuff. So first one is a push. Second one is the one he's going for. And you probably won't be able to tell the difference. That's the problem with these swings, is they're so ingrained that it's hard to tell the difference. And a lot of this is just path and club face relationship. Yeah, they're all coming from the inside. So, anytime you have consistent path, it doesn't mean that you're going to hit it consistently. It's just path and then face. So path, face. What's more important? Face will send it. Path will bend it. So just remember that. If your club face is open at impact, that ball's going right. If the path is left of the club face, then that ball's going right and curving right. So just remember those basic things, and you can kind of, use your ball flight. You're not really given much when you're out there and you're practicing golf. You're given a camera if you have it. Most of us don't have time to get a camera out there. We used to have the divots, and then you have your ball flight. That you're like a detective. And the only clues you have on this ball murder case is your divots and your ball flight. And you've got to figure out what happened based on those two things. And if you're hitting on mats, we don't have a divot. So you only have the ball flights. So if you know your basic ball flight laws, you can kind of see, okay, at impact, I was here and my path must have been doing this. What do I think happened? And you can try and work your way around it. But if you're just out there swinging wildly and just trying things for the sake of trying them, or things that you saw on YouTube because it looks cool and the guy promised you 10 more yards, it's probably not going to work for you. So this is a cool little education. Thanks for sending these driver swings. Hopefully that makes sense to you guys. Martlek, thanks, much appreciated. Do you do online lessons? I honestly, I just don't have the time. I mean, between teaching, between running the 5 academies, between this, my family, I barely have time to play golf. So no, I don't. That might change in the future. If this thing takes off and I can create this as a new, job for me, and I can, you know, give out more responsibilities for the academies. Who knows? But for right now, unfortunately, not. This is about as good as I can get. So, all right, next up, let's see. Oh, and by the way, Peter is from South Africa. So, Joe, send me some biltong if you can. And Chris, all right, next up we have Chris. All right, Chris, hopefully you're on. Let's take a look at Chris's swing while I read his stuff. This is a video of me in North Carolina. I was the coldest I've ever been in North Carolina when I went to play. It was freezing. I started playing golf seriously a year ago. Okay, great. Welcome to golf. I'm working on trying to just hit a consistent drives in the fairway or near the fairway. My biggest problem is hitting consistent drives. I don't have a big problem. I don't have a big problem slicing. Sometimes I pull it left. Okay. My biggest problem is rising up at the top of my backswing and my head coming out of the top of my backswing, just trying to copy my left wrist and keeping it cocked and also keeping my head behind the ball like Jack Nicklaus. All right. Let's see if we got a little Jack in us here. I had a little Jack and Coke the other night. All right. Let's take a look. All right. So we don't have a face on, but we definitely see that body coming on up. And then we do have a big club face open right there. And I know that's probably toe hit, so it probably spun a little bit. Now, usually toe hits will work their way back over, but that means that the path is significantly left of that club face being open. And we see that ball moving, big push, and it is curving right. So let's take a look. Right off the bat, I just think this setup for a driver is a little too crouchy, a little bit too bent, a little bit too far. It's hard to maintain your angles, your spine angle specifically. The number one goal in golf is just maintain your spine angle at setup. So again, you want to give yourself a spine angle that can be maintained based on your abilities and based on your athleticism, basically. So if you need to stand taller to maintain your posture, stand taller. If you can't stand more over, it comes with a penalty too. Maintaining that shoulder tilt is very tough. Your shoulder tilt needs to be in yellow here, perpendicular to whatever you started with. That's like the bare minimum. So the more you start over with a driver, the more you better keep that left shoulder down to stay relative. And that puts a lot of pressure on the back. And most of us can't. So we have to just work our way out of it. And now we're raising up. And if you focus on keeping your head down, now all of a sudden it's gonna a lot of pain coming out our way. Let me see here real quick. How do we send you our video? I'm a good player shooting the 70s, just looking for ways to hit it harder. My pro friends make fun of me. Yeah, that's join the club, man. We're all being made fun of. You can send it to info@liongolfacademy.com. Face on down the line, a little bit of history of what you're going through, and just let me know, and I'll put you in the pipeline. Just to let you know, I got 2 in the waiting list for next week. We've got 8 spots open, so if you get it into me relatively soon, you'll be on next week. If not, you'll just go on the waiting list for the following week, and that's just how we're going to have to work it here. Okay, so let's back up here and go to the first initial part of the backswing. So we're looking for that shoulder tilt at the top to remain perpendicular. So it's a lot of asking here. And right away, we see the shoulders leveling out and we start standing up. So yeah, you're definitely not flexible enough to maintain that tilting, and we get to a natural position. So this is your natural turn. So this should be your natural setup with that spine angle. And then from there, because we stood up, our hands raise up. Once you start losing your posture, you start standing up, your hands want to work down. So to compensate that, you're starting to pick up to get your hands higher. Now, when you're picking up and you've also stood up, now all of a sudden when you turn, man, that path is going to be pretty up there. You did a pretty good. Look at that though. You pulled the hands down, and now all of a sudden that club is below, and now that's tough too, because you better start closing that club face pretty quick. And you can see that new spine angle. So look how much spine angle you're losing. I mean, it's almost upright. So obviously your shoulders are going to level out. So it's, you want to add tilt, and when they're leveling out, you're erasing tilt. So I just think this is a big setup issue. And based on this top position that you have, I think that's your setup. So if you just go to the top, look at where you're comfortable at, that should be your spine angle at the starting point. So if you go to the bottom of your swing, so look how much we have to stand you up. Now, just because you stand up, you also have to make adjustments to your weighting. So you're going to be taller. You don't have to, it's going to be harder to get to that golf ball. So you have to stand a little closer, but you have to make sure that your feet are supporting your hips. Right now, you do have a closed stance, so it's kind of hard to see. So we're going to split the difference. So if you take a look, this left foot is outside of your hips, and this right foot is on that right hip joint. So the right foot's good. And I know this might be one way that you're trying to fight, the outside in to close things up, but it's tough, specifically when you start losing posture. So I think your first gig is to get closer, get that spine angle, look at the top of your swing and say, okay, that's where I naturally get to based on my limitations. Let me start there so I don't have this up and down. At least you won't fight that. Standing closer, just getting more turn, because also when you're bent over, it's hard to turn and stay in your posture. So you could be stalling out on your turn, and then to get more turn, you start standing up. So I think this is your best starting point, specifically only a year into the game. You don't want to start developing bad habits, because you don't want to be, 10 years from now dealing with so many bad habits that takes 10 years to undo all those habits. So the quicker you get this, the quicker you can create new habits, and the better it'll be for you. So let me know if that helps you, Chris. If you need further explanations, just let me know. Shawn, we got Shawn up next. Where's Shawn? We're on page 2. All right, now Shawn is a revisit as well. I have tried what you recommend. I was wondering if you could look at the attached and tell me what you see and what else I need to do to improve my setup. All right. Now I have a swing here that looked pretty good. I mean, it's so much better there. So if you take a look at this setup, and I know he sent me a breakdown of the setup, and this is a much better setup. So good job with this. A lot of good work, this change. And just for the sake of time, we're not going to change colors. And we're going to do green from the arches of the heels up. So it's pretty close. That's not a straight line. Let's get this here. Now put vertical. Let's see if it does vertical. No, see, when I put vertical, it does horizontal. It's very unusual. Okay, look at that. All right, that's pretty good. Let's take a look at the motion now. Hands are doing good. So we still see that shoulder not being able to go down. So I think your next move here is just trying to tighten that circle up, but it's still pretty good. And the circle I'm looking at is this circle right here. We can see that circle captures your hands and your club head. If you can ideally capture it together, that's good. And you're really close to doing it. So I think that might be a good target for you. And that's basically just getting this left shoulder to tilt a little bit more down to pull those hands inside to get that. Then we get to the top of the position. So look at that. You're falling right in the plane lines. Good job. Look at that. That is beautiful. So grip of the club is falling right down the centerness. So he's not too steep, not too flat. It's perfectly well. Now let's take a look at the triangle check and see what happens. Now, ideally, if the sequencing is correct, we shall see those hands just moving straight down that triangle first and then cross over. We see them going down. Okay, they cross over a little bit too soon. So that could either mean, slight disconnection, or you're turning the whole body together instead of just, driving the lower body and turning it and delaying that upper body slightly so you can, drop it on the left side of the triangle a little sooner. So you probably still find a little bit of steepness here. So the hands are definitely higher than they should be. And then the hands will have to pull back down and release the club. But it's much better. You can see a little bit of posture loss here. So I think that's a sign that when you have a little posture loss at impact, there's a lot of rotation. It's starting to stand up. So work on the sequencing. Try and delay either turn a little bit more or just try and delay the shoulders slightly. And, that's not an easy thing to do. So hope that helps you. But great job. Great work. Thanks, dude. You're welcome, DSC. And Chris, I appreciate that. That helps a lot. Thank you, brother. All right. Next up, we have Michael. Is Michael here? Yeah. All right. Michael, let me know if you're here. I assume you're here. And let's take a look at Michael while I read his email. Okay, perfect. You're here. Great. Felt my swing is good and have shot under par several times. Then I saw myself in video and realized just how much I dragged the club inside, then rerouted the top. I lost my confidence and been struggling to break 80. Yeah, man, that's Arnold Palmer said he refused to look at his golf swing on TV because he just knew how shoddy of a swing it looked. And he said, if I saw my swing on TV, I would do exactly what happened to you. I was lose confidence. I want to change it. So sometimes just if it's working, man, there's no reason to change stuff and look at stuff. I'm working hard on my shoulder tilt and trying to take the club not so inside. I've also struggled taking the club back inside and then losing my posture. Okay. I don't feel this way and instead feel very connected. At times, I get stuck in transition. When I get stuck at the top, I fail to shift and turn. I, of course, come way over the top and hit pulls. I need help with setup. Man, that's a lot of stuff you got going on. So, let's just look at the down the line and take a look. Yeah, I see it. So we go inside. Let's see how we reroute things. Hey, you're welcome, Shawn. Okay, crossing the line, really reliant on the hands and arms. Okay, yeah, wow. So this is definitely reliant on some hands. Yeah, that's a you make it work. You get that club inside your hand path and you make it work and you time that release. Yeah, this one's going to be a tough one. All right, let's look at the face off. Yeah, this one's a challenging one. I don't mean it like it's a tough one as a bad thing. I mean it's a tough one to unlearn, and that's probably where you're running into some issues. Um, how long have you been playing? Did you mention this to me, Michael? If you could let me know how long you've been playing. I assume there were some lessons. If there's no lessons, let me know. There's no lessons. It's completely self-taught. Let me know if you like to hit a lot of golf balls versus playing, because that really makes a big difference. 30 years, hit lots of balls. Okay. Any lessons by chance? All right. While he's typing, we're going to draw some stuff here. Several, they threw their hands up. That's not good. You're going to the wrong guys, man. Like this type of stuff, makes my job really fun. Is finding guys like you that have just figured out a way to shoot under par with that swing. And I don't say that in a negative way. It's actually a compliment because there's a lot of moving parts. And for you to time all this stuff, it's like it takes timing. Let me see. Most say you hit it well. Why mess with it? Yeah, I mean, no, to be able to shoot under par, what's your current handicap, and where do you attribute your handicap loss, if there is any? Is it from, like you said, lack of confidence, or is it something you're working on that's kind of thrown off this whole chain? Because this is a very unique chain, and most things won't apply to you. You're currently an 8, okay? Where would you like to be? You get it on that plane. I mean, you do a lot of good stuff. Trying to take it back on plane feels weird. Yeah, man, your plane is different than normal planes. So just take that term relative. When I draw planes, I'm just looking at, okay, why is this person doing this, and do they compensate correctly for that? So I'm not saying that everybody has to hit this plane. Now, if you're capable of it and you're close and it'll help your misses, yeah, let's shoot for that. Why not? If it makes things more repeatable. But if you just do things over and over again, doesn't mean it's wrong. It just means that, okay, how efficient is it? And can you play with it? And, you do a lot of great things. And you could see, look at that club. The club gets where it needs to get. It might be a little high, but you figure this out and your club drops. Your club head will drop below and back on plane. So you get there. You get there very uniquely. This isn't something that people are taught. It just happens. It doesn't mean it's wrong. Let me see. I have one leg club. Does your swing apply to me? Does my swing? Me, as in like my golf swing? Because I don't really teach theories. I just teach the person. So it might apply to you. You'd have to just send me a video to see. You want to get down to a scratch. Okay. So where do you think you miss your shots? I mean, you're 8 shots off. Basically you're 8 shots on your best round out of 4, because that's what handicaps are. They record your best 1 out of 4. Do you think your 8 shots come from mental errors? Do you think it's missing the ball? Do you think it's short game? Do you think it's more of a physical strain? Too much timing when I'm good, but it's not reliable. Yep, I hear that. I shank a lot and think my center of gravity moves forward. Yeah, I can see that. I can see why you would start to shank it when you start moving that much into the golf ball. I mean, you take a look at your new posture. I mean, you've lost a lot of real estate at this point. So let's back it up to here. I mean, you can see how much you've come into the golf ball and your spine angle. Let's draw it in red. Not to say it's bad, but it's easier to see. So there's your new spine angle, and you shifted. I mean, look how much you're moving into the golf ball, which will then crash your arms. So there's no rotation at this point. You can't rotate and get your hands to do what they're doing. So you're stalling out in the rotation. You're relying a lot of this, and this is very timing oriented. So here's the options. I mean, if you were a student of mine and you came to me with this swing, I just tell it like it is. I say, look, man, how long you played this game for 30 years? You might have got a few lessons here or there. You figured this out on your own. For you to unlearn this golf swing and get you to be, somewhere closer to where you need to be, it's going to take a lot of effort. I don't think it's going to be worth your time. I think, the shanks, you can maybe alleviate some of the shanks by staying a little bit further back so you can give yourself some space so you don't get too close. I'm curious if it's a heel shank or if it's a toe shank. Most likely it's a hosel shank. Hate that word, but I'm guessing it's that one. But if this was me and you, we're working on short game. We're working on course management. We're working on building your belief in yourself back up, because you seem like a guy that just needs to believe in himself again. And I don't see how any golf swing theory can apply to you. I don't see how any tip can apply to you other than an individualized whole plan. So if this was me and you, I'd say, look, here's your options. It's going to take 3 or 4 years to get to be where you want to be. And it's not because I'm trying to milk you. It's because it takes so much repetition and doing it correctly over and over again. You're going to just be so frustrated. And at your age, are you really, really ready to commit to 3 years of frustration, or do you just want to go play and enjoy the game? I mean, I think that you got to play and enjoy the game. So we're working on short game. We're working on course fundamentals, course management, playing within yourself, accepting the swing as who you are, because I don't see, yes, it's an unusual swing, but hey, I still think it's a good swing. And you got down to, you broke par a couple times with that swing. So it says it can work. So, I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. I don't want to lead you down a path that you don't want to be led down, but that's just my honest opinion. So hope that helps you. Bro, that's rough that teachers gave up on you, but you can play. Guys like you scare me. Yes, exactly. I played a tour event it was a Pepsi tour event in Southern California, like in 25, maybe 30 years ago. And this guy shows up to the first tee and he grips the club. He's right-handed. He grips it left-handed. So left hand low. He aims 40 yards right. And he just plays this massive rope hook all day long. The guy shot 66 and won the event. So, hey, there's outliers to every situation. You're probably an outlier. Just, accept it and just work with what you got. Find a coach that builds your confidence. Find a coach that finds your weaknesses. Take stats. Go out and take stats. If you need a stat sheet, email me. I'll give you a basic stat sheet that'll help you keep stats when you play. And then we can look at, where your weakness is and attack your weaknesses. To me, your weakness isn't your swing. It's probably your belief in yourself. So got to get your confidence back. We need a GoFundMe account for you. Get his confidence back. Get get Michael's confidence back. All right. Hope that helps you. Let me know. Other than that, we got who's last? Jeremy. All right, Jeremy, a revisit. I like that tee. So there's a story behind that tee. He put some tape on his shirt to help him align. So, man, you and I need to come up with that. That's a new gimmick we can make. What will we call it? The Lion Tee of Truth. Guaranteed 40 yards extra. That's what they all say, right? Okay, so basically, it's Kurt 56. Oh, no, sorry. That's the right one. Is it? No, Jeremy. I've attached 2 new swings with the setup changes. Curious about what you think of the posture and how does this look face on. I'm kind of sucking my stomach. I'm tucking my pelvis. I'm really focused on keeping the arms in front of the chest. Good. You'll see the tape on my shirt. Is there still a forward press? Okay, we'll check it today. I'm playing the ball forward and trying not to shift too far forward. Good. Old setup had my sternum pointing like 6 inches in front of the ball. Perfect. All right, let's take a look. Let's make sure you're on the right track. See what's going on. All right. Man, that's too big. Let's do that one. All right, that's too small. Yeah, that's good enough. All right, so we got the tilting, hands ahead, much better. Okay, so we don't have as much forward press, so we do see a nice forward press. So that's an acceptable forward press. Ball position is slightly ahead of your center, so maybe get that ball position in line with your center, just so you don't have to lunge to get ahead of the golf ball at impact. So setup changes, I'd say just move it, back. Now that you've corrected that massive forward press, keep that same setup. Just move the ball position more centered, so that center, where the tee meets, needs to be ahead of the golf ball. You can see it's just behind it. So we just move things back a little bit. And let's take a look at the motion. Okay, we got that weight shift to the right side. We'll have to look at the down line, see what's happening with your planes. Okay, so your centeredness gets slightly ahead of the ball. That's okay. It is a little bit too tilty again, so we see this tilting here, and the hands should be out in front. So you can see if you really did maintain your tilt, let's clear these lines up. If you really did maintain your tilt-turn relationship, those hands would be there at impact, and you can see there's no way for them to hit that golf ball. So you do have to throw a little bit. So it just looks a little bit too much, again, of this, tilting too much instead of just carrying that angle over and then drive with the hips. And that drive with the hips will tilt it enough. So we don't need this accentuated tilt. So that's just my main thing from there. Let's go to Tony's T-tape. I like that. Tony's T-tape. We got to market that. It's going to be on that. What is that website? The Golden Ratio website? Almost said the Golden Shower website. That's a different website. Don't go to that shower. All right. There's your planes. Centeredness check. Pretty close to being centered, so pretty good. Yep, just a little bit behind. That's okay. Yeah, you can see it's getting still a little bit based on that setup. Tilt's doing good. So at least you're keeping that tilt relationship. Yeah, you can see it's suffering just a little bit. So overall, it's pretty good. I would just say from this halfway checkpoint. So right there, you're pretty good. Okay, if you want to be a perfectionist, try and narrow that gap down, which means this needs to move a little bit up. So now you're perfect. But hey, for government work, that's great. From this point, you really want to feel like the hands are going to go this way, like straight up at that point. So you need to feel, because you've established some turn, maybe a little bit more turn from here, but that's okay. You've established enough, but just feel those hands pulling straight up to the sky instead of getting sucked back. I think that's just a habitual thing because you have plenty of turn. So you see that club is a little bit too far behind you. It needs to be a little bit higher. So when it's higher, it can drop down a little bit more in front of you, so it's not stuck behind you. So we see the club does drop down, but that club is going to be stuck behind you. Behind you, I mean, there's your spine angle. The club is so far behind you. There's the edge of your body. You want it to be a little bit closer to your body at this point, maybe a little bit steeper, so you don't have to, find a way to pick it off the ground. But other than that, I think those setup changes were really good. Just make that subtle change of moving that ball position more in the center, so you don't have to, lunge forward. And then from that midway point, get those hands straight up to the sky. Just reach for the sky. All right. And that is it. We got all 10 of them done today. So that was well paced. 7:03. Look at that, right on the dot. So if you're interested, thanks for joining, everybody. If you're interested in sending more of your swings, go ahead, face on down the line. Or you can send it to either Tony@LionGolfAcademy.com or info@LionGolfAcademy. Probably easier at info because I get inundated with emails all day at that Tony address. So info@LionGolfAcademy.com. Send me your notes, what you're working on, all that stuff. But yeah, no problem. Appreciate you. And good luck with your beautiful swing. We're going to call you No One's Beautiful Swing because you have a beautiful swing. All right. Hope that helps you guys. I'll see you next week, next Sunday, but I got some videos coming out, some good ones. And other than that, I'll see you next time. Fairways and greens.